Hello, welcome to Telesur. I'm Carla Gonzalez in Quito, and this is from the South. More African countries continue to take measures against the spread of the COVID-19 as the virus spreads at a steady pace across the continent. Several African nations have introduced restrictions and campaigns in their efforts to reduce the spread of the virus. According to the World Health Organization, there are over 1,400 confirmed cases in 42 African countries. Among these, at least 40 people have died from the virus.
There's a new bill in the U.S.
Zimbabwe has announced the death of one of its 2 confirmed coronavirus cases. The victim was a 30-year-old journalist who had visited the United States recently and tested positive upon his return. He was the second person to test positive in Zimbabwe and was quarantined at a local hospital until the time of his death. Medical supplies donated to Africa by a Chinese organization have arrived in Ethiopia. The supplies donated by the Jack Ma Foundation include masks, testing kits, and protective suits. The medical equipment will be distributed through Ethiopian Airlines to the 54 African countries, starting with the most affected ones. On Sunday, Rwanda became the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to order a total shutdown due to the coronavirus, after the number of confirmed cases rose to 17. All unnecessary movements have been banned for an initial 2 weeks, except for essential services such as healthcare and shopping for groceries. Both public and private workers have also been ordered to work from home. Borders have been completely closed except for goods and cargo, and returning citizens will be subjected to a 14-day quarantine. In Nigeria, churches have heeded calls by the government to take measures to stop the spread of the COVID-19. Churches in the West African country are usually packed with thousands of people. However, since the government announced measures to curb the virus, the number of people attending religious events has drastically reduced. The churches are also implementing control measures, which include using hand sanitizers and conducting temperature tests. Nigeria has confirmed 22 cases so far.
In fact, today, you would have seen more than 200 women in the church. You understand? You would have seen more than 200 women in the church, but they are two. Only few. Only 3 you can see there in their uniform. Today, they are there. But because of life, we told them to stay back.
And a Cuban medical brigade has arrived in Italy to contribute to the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. The 52 doctors and nurses arrived in the northern Italian region of Lombardy, the worst affected. This is the 6th Cuban medical brigade to travel abroad to fight the pandemic, and the first to provide its services in Europe. Health authorities in Italy said the team has optimum training and experience in combating epidemics. The medical brigade will reinforce the efforts of a Chinese health team already working in the country. And on Sunday, Russia deployed 9 military planes to Italy, carrying 100 medical experts and equipment to fight the virus. The Ministry of Defense said the aid mission was agreed by Russian President Vladimir Putin and Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte. It added that the experts have experience in dealing with pandemics, as they have previously taken part in fighting Ebola, African swine fever, and anthrax outbreaks. Meanwhile, Cuba confirmed 5 new cases of the COVID-19 on Sunday, for a total of 40 in the country. Of the patients diagnosed with the disease, 35 have a stable condition and 3 cases remain serious. 3 are Cubans and 1 is from France, the other one from Russia. Venezuela has diagnosed 77 positive cases of COVID-19 to date, all of which have been imported from countries including in Europe, Colombia, and the United States. This is what President Nicolás Maduro said about it on Sunday.
The Venezuelan state, along with our scientific system and the national hygiene system, has followed up on the cases, and I'm informing today that Venezuela has 77 confirmed cases. Each and every one of them are imported cases.
And Venezuela has been disinfecting public spaces as part of the contingency plan to stop the COVID-19. More details in this report.
These cars, which spray water, are known here in Venezuela as whales. They often were used to stop protests. Today, they are loaded with calcium hypochlorite to disinfect more than 2,000 strategic zones all over the country. Places where there is greater circulation of people are of the highest priority, such as popular markets and the surrounding of medical centers.
We are disinfecting public spaces, surfaces, streets, markets, and means of transport, so we can withstand and stop this pandemic that's affecting the whole planet. To contain and eradicate the coronavirus, we are deploying in 3 different areas of the capital.
Among the police force, firefighters, and civil defense, there are 20,000 officers that disinfect the city at night. Also, 350 machines will be used for portable disinfecting.
We want to guarantee protection to our people and to stop the virus from spreading. That's why we are carrying efforts of the revolutionary government. We got also help from abroad, and we got gear from them that helps us to eradicate the virus in every short time.
The subway and the access ways to the popular market are also being disinfected. It's not only the responsibility of authorities, individual and collective prevention is crucial.
We recommend that people remain calm and have patience because these sorts of things will resolve little by little. It's hard, but we have to be cautious. We have to wear the mask and remain at home. That's what we can do to prevent the spread of the virus. Stay at home and be creative. I think it's for the best.
Venezuela was the first country in the region to apply social quarantine as a drastic measure to contain the spread of the virus.
We'll take a short break. Don't go away.
A review of the world news that investigates, incites analysis, and induces criticism, because every event has a context.
Pusimos el punto en la I.
Dot in the I. Saturdays, only on Venezuela.
Welcome back. More news. In Colombia, a protest by inmates in La Modelo prison in Bogotá left 23 people dead and 82 wounded. Prisoners were demanding sanitary controls and preventive measures against the coronavirus.
On the night of Saturday, March 21st, inmates in La Modelo prison in Bogotá protested against the null sanitary protection measures to control the coronavirus pandemic. A situation made worse due to overcrowding and precarity of their condition.
When the guards entered to do a head count, they didn't have masks on, and there is a virus in the streets. Everyone is under quarantine. People are not supposed to enter the courtyards if they don't follow strict measures to prevent the virus. We heard the pots banging at 9 p.m., and then people lost control. They started breaking the fences and trying to escape. Then the guards came in shooting, and I saw 2 of my friends die.
Relatives of the inmates gathered outside the jail since early in the morning on Sunday to receive information about those who were wounded during the protests.
A lot of people here have brothers there. My own brother is inside. We want answers. We want to know if they are fine. What happened inside? They won't tell us anything. They throw tear gas at us. They mistreat us. Our relatives are still inside.
My brother is John Ortiz. He was wounded last night inside the prison. They shot him twice, and they won't give us any information.
Relatives demand answers for the dead and the injured. Pedro Martinez has a son in the model prison, and he doesn't want to see history repeat itself. Another of his children died inside the prison of Heliconia in Florencia, Caquetá, due to burns that were not treated on time.
The pain I have is that they didn't help him. The director of the prison did nothing and lied to us. He didn't help my son. I want to see him. I'm the father of Victor Manuel. We all are in shock over your lack of action. You let him die in pain, 72 hours lying on the floor like a dog.
Protests were held in several prisons across the country. According to Justice Minister Margarita Cabello, it was a prison break attempt. All of this comes as the country is dealing with a crisis over the coronavirus pandemic, where several sectors have strongly criticized the government's slow response.
In other news, social organizations in Brazil have criticized how the president, Jair Bolsonaro, has handled the coronavirus pandemic. Brian Meir has the story.
Eurasia Group Director Ian Brennan recently announced that Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro is the world's worst leader in his handling of the coronavirus crisis, and it's easy to see why someone would say something like that. After announcing to the public on March 10th that the coronavirus was a media fantasy, he's continually downplayed the crisis, and he's continually tried to undo measures from local authorities who are trying to contain the crisis and trying to flatten out the curve. Over the weekend, he issued a presidential decree ordering state governors of Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo, Wilson Witzel and João Doria, to undo the airport and road blockades, which were designed to inhibit the spread of the virus. He went on TV over the weekend and once again announced that it's just a little flu, and early this morning he issued another presidential decree giving employers the right to suspend all of their workers for 4 months. Now, what this does is by suspending them instead of laying them off, it makes them all ineligible for unemployment insurance. And he's saying what they should do in this time is watch educational videos. So at a moment when all of the leaders around the world, including right-wing leaders like Boris Johnson in the UK and Donald Trump in the United States, are trying to figure out ways to get basic income into the hands of their citizens so that they won't go hungry during the quarantine period, Jair Bolsonaro is deliberately doing the opposite.
That was Brian Meir from Brazil. Now to China. Hubei province has recorded no new COVID-19 cases for the first time in the past 5 days. According to authorities, most of the few cases confirmed recently in China have been imported from other countries.
After hard work, Hubei and Wuhan have not seen any new confirmed cases or suspected cases for 5 consecutive days, and the number of existing confirmed cases has continued to decline.
And life is returning to normal in the Chinese city of Wuhan, where the COVID-19 was first detected. Workers have been allowed to go to work if they have a permit from their employers, and business operators have been given a green light to apply for clearance to resume. The lifting of restrictions in Wuhan came after the President Xi Jinping visited the city earlier this month to assess the situation and the subsequent reduction in new infections recorded in the past few weeks.
My company resumed work several days earlier. Everyone has been issued a health card after having their physical condition checked and body temperature taken. My company gave us the pass, and I'm on my way home after a night shift.
We applied online for the permit to return to Wuhan yesterday and got approved last night. So I came to Wuhan from Xianing this morning.
China has warned the United States to desist from stigmatizing it over the COVID-19 pandemic. U.S. President Donald Trump blamed China for lack of cooperation on the coronavirus crisis, and China's foreign minister called on the U.S. to stop politicizing the epidemic.
Here I want to urge the U.S. again to immediately stop politicizing the epidemic, stop stigmatizing China, and stop slandering other countries. It should focus its attention on doing its own work well and play a constructive role in all countries' collective effort to fight the epidemic and maintain global public health and security.
The death toll and infection figures have raised in Spain due to the coronavirus. 2,182 people have died and more than 33,000 have been diagnosed with the COVID-19 disease after being infected with the coronavirus. More than 3,000 people have recovered and almost the same amount have been in intensive care units. Spain is entering its second week under quarantine and continues to be one of the worst affected by the pandemic. The World Health Organization has condemned attempts by some world leaders to use the coronavirus to stigmatize certain countries.
The viruses know no borders, and they don't care your ethnicity, the color of your skin, or how much money you have in the bank. So it's really important that we be careful in the language we use, lest it lead to profiling of individuals associated with the virus. This is just something we need to all avoid.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel has gone into self-quarantine after learning that a doctor whom she met had tested positive for the coronavirus. Before going into quarantine, Merkel announced a new set of measures to combat the spread of the virus, including a ban on gatherings of more than 2 people and a mandatory closure of restaurants, hairdressers, massage parlors, and other non-essential stores. Indian citizens have applauded health practitioners for working tirelessly to give care to COVID-19 patients. In a nationwide campaign to honor health workers, citizens banged pots and pans, clapped hands, and sang from their balconies. The majority of citizens have complied with a government-imposed curfew to help stop the spread of the virus. The country has so far recorded 348 cases and 7 deaths.
Yeah, actually our Prime Minister had given us a request telling that all of us had to come forward and clap for 5 minutes to show our gratitude and also our appreciation to the medical community and to the others who have worked so tirelessly and so selflessly from the past few weeks, maybe, for this terrible, trying things that are happening in our country.
We have more stories coming up. Stay with us.
Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Atomism. Monday, only on Telesur.
Thank you for joining us again. Health experts in Chile are left perplexed. The government of Sebastián Piñera declared a state of catastrophe on March 18th, removed the military from its barracks, but refuses to implement a nationwide lockdown to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus, as the country surpasses 630 cases.
Autumn will soon arrive in Chile as the novel coronavirus continues to rage in the country. It claimed its first victim on March 21st, an 83-year-old woman. Yet President Piñera's administration hasn't announced a national quarantine, despite growing pressure from health experts, mayors, and opposition leaders.
Some are motivated by populist zeal, others by electoral zeal, but without doubt, this is a complete senselessness, and this measure that some people are proposing is a measure that will cause, without a doubt, a lot of damage, a lot of looting, a lot of crime. But what if the virus mutates and it will only cause symptoms like of a common cold?
I have declared a state of constitutional exception, simply known as a state of catastrophe.
President Piñera declared a state of catastrophe on March the 18th. But what was the government's priority on the same day? Erasing the slogans of Chile's mass anti-government protests in Santiago's Plaza Dignidad, the most iconic square of the last 5 months of protest. Despite the coronavirus crisis, a few protesters on March 20th tried to keep the movement alive, but security forces quickly dispersed them. Meanwhile, hospitals lack basic supplies as the number of COVID-19 cases continues to soar.
One of the pillars of containing the pandemic is strategic communication. Communication the risk and also regaining the trust of citizens. We have offered the government all of our expertise to explain the measures and the stages. The situation requires a lot of order, a lot of discipline, and because of this, we have met with political parties and social movements to show them that this crisis requires complex measures, such as social distancing, the total closure of the metropolitan region, with maintaining only the basic services. We are sure that all citizens will understand, since this will give us more time to strengthen our diagnostic capacity.
Residents of coastal cities now reject travelers from Santiago, and not without reason. More than 60% of the over 600 confirmed cases in Chile come from the capital.
Due to the government's refusal to declare a national quarantine, I have decided to close our community.
President Sebastián Piñera, because you haven't addressed the request of more than 200 mayors to declare a national quarantine, we have joined the mayors of Santo Domingo, San Antonio, Cartagena, Algarrobo, and El Kiosco and decided to close our communities.
What we're doing is demanding that the government install the sanitary barriers here in the entrance of the province of Los Andes and also for the province of San Felipe.
Meanwhile, the mayor of Recoleta went all the way to Santiago to carry out his own plan, ordering a shipment of Cuba's interferon alpha-2b medication that has proven effective against some COVID-19 cases.
Interferon alpha-2b has been used on numerous occasions for viruses that didn't have any treatment because they were new viruses. And in all of those cases, this product has helped to improve the health of the patients who were in most serious conditions, whose life was at risk. And therefore, I believe that this can serve as a tremendous lesson for the world. Cuba is a biotech power, and we knew that a long time ago. But there are people who overvalue neoliberalism and don't want to open themselves to the idea that the alternative can be a source of wealth.
China has deployed the military to disinfect the Wuhan rail station, and Venezuelan authorities used trucks to disinfect the streets. In Chile, the police fired tear gas at people who throw stones back at them in response.
Now Chile has 746 cases. Now let's turn to South Sudan. It has plunged into a civil war since 2013, and attempts to form a coalition government and reach peace have failed. We bring you more on the humanitarian impact of this conflict.
Coban Gacho is a lucky man. Shot 3 times and left for dead, he was found alive following the carnage, the bullets having missed his vital organs and airlifted to Juba for surgery.
I was shot in the shoulder and passed out. When I woke up, I had been shot in the thigh and 10 later in the leg. 3 members of our team died and 6 had serious injuries.
Cuba was airlifted from the eastern state of Jonglei to this military hospital, which has a special ward run by the International Committee of the Red Cross. It is one of the few in South Sudan equipped to treat gunshot injuries. After months of talks, President Salva Kiir formed another unity government with his rival Riek Machar in February. Almost 400,000 people were killed in the struggle for power. But as the war wound down last year, the number of gunshot patients spiked by almost 20% in international Red Cross clinics across South Sudan.
The injury on the chest, it might go into the lungs, it might cause bleeding into the lungs, and if it's on the left side, it might even hurt the heart, and they might die instantly. But most of our patients, thanks God, they are lucky and they survive these injuries.
In 2019, the International Committee of the Red Cross actually treated more patients with serious gunshot wounds than in 2018, 769 compared to 658. The fear is that 2020 could follow the same path, especially so in South Sudan, where healthcare is non-existent in remote areas, and there are about 180 doctors for a population of 12 million.
Vast majority of the patients that we treat here are patients who've suffered gunshot wounds, and they're either involved with the ongoing conflict or just with general violence that exists, particularly in the cattle community. And the most recent influx of patients we've had have been involved with a raid on a cattle camp in the middle of the country.
But this is not the only problem facing the people of South Sudan. In a country of 14 million people, 2.2 million children do not go to school. The adult literacy rate is 26.8%. And in addition to the challenges in access to health and education, it is one of the places where the youngest children are abducted and recruited by armed groups. An estimated 16,000 children have been recruited by groups and armed forces since the crisis began in December 2013. Within the country, almost 2 million people are internally displaced, while there are 2 million South Sudanese refugees in the countries such as Ethiopia, Sudan, and Uganda. Meanwhile, levels of inter-community violence still pose a threat to stability in the country. A lucky few of those gunned down, like Ngasho, are airlifted to Juba. The rest take their chances at local clinics or simply bleed out in the field. Meanwhile, the clashes show little sign of ending. Political peace may have come to South Sudan, but the path to peace between its communities is still long.
And with that, we end our news brief. But you can find these and many other stories by checking our website, telesurenglish.net. For our viewers in Africa, you can find us on Starsat channel 461 in South Africa and 539 in Nigeria. And be sure to also check us out on social media. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.
Water. Bowl. Mizu. Nero.